Hi, everybody. Jonathan Broadbent here. Today is Monday, November 6th, 5 o'clock on the nose once again. If you haven't been following along, a couple of notes. One is I plan to go live at 5 on the nose every weekday, and I've been doing that for about a week. A big part of the reason that I do this is not only to start a dialogue and start talking about UnWoke and what it is, but also to learn this cool technology. I've been talking a little bit about the cool stuff I've purchased for my little home office here, and I moved recently to a green screen so that I could have cool stuff behind me. One day I plan to have maybe an underwater scene, but this actually is a new step for me. I'm working on some screen sharing, and I wanted to illustrate a point. When we talk about unwoke and unwoke investing, defund the woke, I want to talk for a moment about what that means. And I've created this little chart here. It started with a concept that I sketched out a long time ago, and now I'm turning it into a little illustration here. You may not be able to read the small print here, but basically what we have is, in my concept, there are three basic categories. There's investing to the left, far left, woke, ESG, CEI. If you're not familiar with that one, I'm not surprised. That stands for Corporate Equity Index. That's a tool that big, powerful, multi-billionaire globalists use to influence companies in really odd and bad ways. So Corporate Equity Index is cited as a reason that companies like Disney, Target, Anheuser-Busch, which is the parent company of Bud Light, why they make some of the choices they do. The basic feeling is that they really don't have a choice. But so over here, and like if you think about investments in that spectrum of far left, in middle of the road, what I call shareholder neutral, or conservative investments, pretty much everybody, I don't know if I should say everybody, but I think most people really fall in the middle. They really just don't want politics in their portfolio, and that's fine. It should be their choice. And I really don't believe that anything left or right should be snuck or foisted upon anybody. So my view, I call this 50 shades of blue over here. This circle represents where most of Wall Street and Washington, D.C. and politics are focused right now, and globally. You have so much pressure to move to the left with all this CEI, ESG, the push toward CBDC. I'm going to pause and define those. So ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. It is a manipulative and fake tool that's being used and foisted upon investment companies, investment managers, portfolio managers, um, all kinds of different companies. ESG, it's anticipated, and I think we're seeing signs already, is morphing into a social credit score, which is going to tie into people's ability to access their own money. Just recently, as a side note, there were many articles that hit U.S. news and some European news sources talking about three more people in the U.S., three more small business owners who have been debanked. They have been kicked out of their banks, no explanation, no reason, no description. They didn't violate anything, but all of their accounts are basically just being shut off. That is a sign that they are not in line with far left objectives and narrative. So this is where, when you get into a 401k or IRA, or you call your average rank and file stockbroker or financial advisor, the pressure to, I don't know if you can see my mouse, I'm circling this big circle here. That's where the investment money is really pushed hard to go. So remember a couple of years ago when everyone was pushed to get jabs, these experimental mRNA, DNA types of gene therapy shots. Um, that pressure is very similar to the pressure that's in the world of finance right now to move everything to the left. And the biggest problem I have is that it's surreptitious, it's hidden, it's not open, and people don't understand it. That is nefarious and bad, and it's wrong. As I said, I don't think people should be forced into any ideologies in their investments. If you're far left and you believe in Green New Deal type battery, wind farm, this environment stuff, whatever, great, that's fine. I don't personally agree with that, and I probably am not a good source for information other than exposing it. But that's fine. You should be able to invest there, but you should not. Ev- Regular people that probably belong here in the middle shouldn't be forced over here. And there are, on the opposite side of the spectrum, there are Judeo-Christian investments, things like pro-life, pro-police, Second Amendment, First Amendment, small business, and Second Vote, which, as you've heard me talk about, we're acquiring the sort of the infrastructure that has led to their 12 years. They've developed 12 years of Judeo-Christian analytics, measuring companies on 6 pillars of freedom: religious freedom, etc. You can go to secondvote.com and you can see a description of those and how they're measured and how they're applied to companies and corporations. That's now rolling in. We're going to bring that under our umbrella, the methodology, and we're going to continue that research. But this big, long oval here, from shareholder neutral all the way over to conservative investing, that is where we are encouraging people to go and to be. My reasoning is I don't believe that the woke left, globalist influence peddlers, those big mega international global corporate behemoths should have more money. I don't think that they should have more power. They have too much and they're exerting it, and it's proving uncomfortable for the world. So neutral to right is where I'm encouraging people to invest. And I mean, if you look, I just by base, I wrote a couple of notes here for comparison. When you look at the one of the biggest elements, one of the most visible elements of the push to the left revolves around these battery powered cars. There's all kinds of anxiety about whether or not they're going to work and whether people will buy them, and et cetera, et cetera. Well, I read something recently that right now the equivalent cost per gallon to get the same distance drive from a battery powered car is about $17 per equivalent gallon. So it's still vastly more economical. I do believe that some corporate entities and politicians on the left will continue to push. They're going to try and drive up and skyrocket gas prices. I think that that is dubious, and I think that they have personal financial gain that they're trying to derive from forcing people into battery-powered stuff. But what we're also seeing is that the charging stations, many of the charging stations are run on things like diesel. So there's this great cozy, warm feeling of like, oh, I'm doing this great thing for the environment by plugging in that car, um, not realizing that it's actually way less efficient than a local engine. Engines have been designed and redesigned for decades to be they're extremely efficient. And when you use diesel to create power, and then you have to transfer that power across power lines, sometimes miles, the efficiency drops off significantly the further you go. So it takes more power to create the commensurate power in a battery. The other thing, and this should strike a nerve with everybody who's aware and concerned, the child labor that goes into pulling the minerals to develop those batteries is um, is horrifying. There's the damage that we're doing to the earth to try and get everybody to ditch their current vehicles, throw them into landfill or whatever, and then switch to newly manufactured cars that have a huge footprint for the manufacturing and delivery and distribution, also that we can think that we look like we feel like we're helping the environment. I call it virtue signaling. Um, it's a horrible idea. So my reason for bringing all that up is These are the types of things that normally in shareholder neutral and any other type of investing you dig into, and you want to know the details of what you're getting involved with. And if you're on the left, you should be doing the same thing. You should, if you really truly care about the environment, not just virtue signaling and trying to look cool, you need to be looking into those things. And those are reasons why those of us who are shareholder neutral and right leaning avoid such investments, because it turns opaque. It becomes very difficult to actually investigate those things. And in my world, that's required of me. We are required to do research and analysis. And I could get inside this blue circle and everything sort of disappears and turns into a big cloudy, dark, murky thing. The last thing I'm going to say is um, with these with these releases I've been doing on UnWoke investing on various different platforms, Twitter and um, Telegram, all over the place, we've been taking a look at mutual funds and those types of investments. And then we've been looking at the companies that release them to get their stance on issues and see how far left and how visibly far left they are. At the same time, I'm having lots of conversations with people and trying to encourage them back into neutral, or telling them, I suggest there's a counter to that. Keep your far left ESG types of mutual funds, but offer ones that will appeal to other patriotic, constitutional, liberty-minded Americans and other people throughout the world, not just Americans. So far, I don't think any companies actually want to come out on paper and admit to building and offering investments that aren't woke left. But I think give it time, they're going to start to sort of, the pendulum will swing. But deeper than just the fund manager and the portfolio manager, we're going to look at the actual investments that are inside of it. You've probably seen me or heard me talk about that pretend donation box that I have that's full of all those labels of like Bud Light and LinkedIn and Target and all these like super woke leftist global sorts of companies. Um, but when we kind of peel the onion and look at what's actually held inside of some of these mutual funds, it should be a wake up call. And there's one more piece to that, and it should be, this is totally having your cake and eating it too. When people think, well, maybe I should be in there because it's some big behemoth mega company, and maybe they just know what's best, and maybe I should just stay invested in Target and Walmart, and I think Walmart's, according to our scale, is a little less bad, but whatever. Nike, Disney, these far left companies that have gone woke. Well, here's the rub with that theory. Other investments that aren't going woke, they're doing much better. They're actually beating their woke counterparts. So that is having investments in your portfolio that you can be proud of. You know what you own. They're not woke, and the returns are better. They're actually beating. And many of them that I'm looking at, they're beating the woke stuff. So I know that's sort of an earful over my usual brief snippet I try to throw in at 5 p.m. on the nose every weekday, but I'm going to post this as well. This ties back together with the video. Share with friends. Ping me on social media or call or send an email if any part of this is unclear or you'd like a deep dive. If you have questions, by all means, send them my way. I will make it neutral, or not neutral. I'll make it anonymous, is what I meant to say. Go online, answer your questions, because there are other people that probably have the same questions you do. Whatever it is, there are no dumb questions. This is all hands on deck. It's time to defund the woke. Thanks for listening, everybody.